Again, thanks for being here, and I'm here to talk about our long-term water supply plan. But first, I want to talk about the good news in our lakes. They have risen quite a bit since last September, as you all know. We're excited about that. Yes. Yeah, last September, our two water supply lakes, Lakes Buchanan and Travis, were about 35% full. And now they're about 80% full. So we've almost doubled our storage capacity in about 5 months. Lake Travis now is about 675 in elevation, and it was about 629, I think, at its lowest point last September. So we're real pleased about the lakes coming up. It should make our life easier and hopefully your business better off in this coming summer. The drought of the last 2 years was really tough on us to manage the lakes, and probably tough on some businesses as well to try to survive during this real intense drought that had the lowest inflows into our lakes over a 2-year period over any time in the history of our basin. It revealed the importance of doing long-term planning to have water supplies for now and also into the future. So what we are in the process of doing right now, and it's the public input that Phyllis mentioned, is we have a long-term water supply plan that's in draft form. It's out to the year 2100 to provide water for cities and industries in our basin. This plan can be found online. There's some fact sheets in most of y'all's seats, maybe not all. It's the little wave on top, and it says Water Supply Resource Plan, and it's join the conversation about water supply. That indicates there's 3 public meetings coming up in the next 3 weeks. There's 2 next week, Tuesday in El Campo down south, which may be out of your region, and then Thursday up in Burnett, and then on March 8th in Austin. We'd love to have you all's feedback and input on our water supply plan. On this same fact sheet, there's a link to our website that shows the supply plan. There's also an electronic survey as well that we'd love to have you all fill out and tell us your opinion on our plan. There's also a survey in your chair, so I gave you a lot of paper. I apologize for that. And if y'all wanted to do the paper survey, feel free to do that as well. And then you can have that mailed to me, or can return it to me later on. So I said this plan looks at trying to provide water up to the year 2100. It's based upon the drought of record, which is the most intense drought we had in our basin. That's back in the 50s. So if the drought's worse than a drought of record, then all bets are off, and there could be some curtailment or some cutback for all of our customers in trying to meet that long-term plan. So it's based on the drought of record, but there could be droughts worse than that. So keep that in mind as you check out our plan. We also intend to have supplies about 10 to 20 years in advance of when they might be needed. That's to provide a cushion to have water just in case of a severe drought or some new supply changes happen, like a lake fills up with sediment in a big flood. So we want to be safe and have a cushion there to make sure you have some water long into the future. This plan is also focused on our basin. It's nowhere else, just on our watershed. And it was shaped by the public input back in 2008. We had 3 meetings back then and got great input on different water supply options and values, and we hope the same process plays out well again in the next 3 weeks to hear some good feedback on what we're doing. Back in 2008, we were told to look at many different water supply options, and we did. We investigated over about 25 water supply options, from conservation to desalination of seawater and groundwater, to off-channel reservoirs, rainwater harvesting, water from space, cloud seeding. Some pretty wild ideas came out in the process, but we looked at all of them, and each has their own benefits and also challenges, and none are free, unfortunately. They all cost some money. Some range from several $1 million up to about $1.6 billion. We also heard from the public back in 2008 some values or some priorities that would help guide our planning process, such as clean water, protect the environment, preserve recreation and lifestyles around the lakes, have water available, have good clean water, also affordable, and sustain economic growth. So we took these ideas and values to guide our planning process. Now the charts. I want to show you all where our water comes from today and our current supplies, and we'll look at that first in our plan, and then what might be needed in the future to meet the growing cities and industries that we project to have in our basin. We have Lake Buchanan and Lake Travis. They're the two water supply lakes. They're the ones that go up and down in the summertime due to drawdowns for the rice farmers and the cities and the power plants downstream. You have the pass-through lakes, Lake LBJ, Inks, Marble Falls, and also Lake Austin. They're for hydropower and also to store some water for local needs. But the two primary water supply lakes are Lakes Buchanan and Travis. And then you have Austin is our biggest water customer. And then moving on downstream, you have some power plants in Bastrop and industry as well. You have a power plant in Fayette County. Then you have the rice farmers, and they're the biggest user of water in our basin. They use interruptible water. It's water where it can be cut off in times of drought. And they were going to be cut off this year, some on their second crop, but the lake levels rose up, so now they're not going to be curtailed this year. But there was the intent to curtail them this year to some degree, to not use the amount of water they have in the past, to protect the supplies in the lakes for the cities and industries. There's also an environmental component. We have to keep water in the river and in Matagorda Bay to sustain the health of the environment. There's a lot of different competing needs on our water. It's the environment, it's cities, it's industry, it's the rice farmers, and also recreation as well up on the lakes. So our job is through our overall water management plan is to manage that water appropriately to meet those competing needs. And it's not an easy task, especially when you have drought and much lower lake levels. Any questions so far on what we're doing, current supplies, users? All right. There's a handout, I think, in most of y'all's chair, another one to look at. And it should say comparison of different water supply strategies. If y'all could pull that one out. There's about 8 different strategies in a table on that sheet. I want to go through just a couple of them to give you all a sense of some possible water supply approaches. It's a comparison of water supply strategy sheet. On the top line is using Highland Lakes water and our downstream water rights. LCRA owns about 630,000 acre-feet of downstream water rights that are called run-of-river rights. And that means when the water is available during a drought, that you can, if water is not available during a drought, it's not then available to us. So it's not as firm as the water you might find in our lakes. That first line across there, it's about $3 to $5 million to develop that water supply. But in that third column over, it's not meeting our goal of providing water out to 2100. It's about 2060 or 2080. There's also shortages for the rice farmers downstream, environmental flows. On the far right-hand side is the lake level column that y'all might be interested in. We're taking a look at how different supply strategies and future demands could impact our lakes as well. And the short of it is the lakes will, on average, tend to be lower than they have in the past 70 years. As demands increase from the growing cities and industries, there'll be less water in the lakes. Over the past 70 years, Lake Travis has been below elevation 660 about 18% of the time. 2040 and on out, per our projections and our models, it could be about 32% of the time below elevation 660. It's based upon the current weather patterns today and projected use and demand. So the long-term projection appears to be lower lake levels. But the lakes have done their job as they're intended to provide flood control and also water supply. But the coming decades will see a much bigger increase in that demand on that water supply. If you look down to the second option there, which is an enhanced conservation program.